Hey everybody, J-Dog and Lincoln here for a special 426 LV426 Alien Day video. Yeah, Lincoln's on the couch with me here. He's excited. You excited? It's Alien Day. You excited for Alien Day? You don't care. You just know that Daddy's on the couch with you, and you're making a movie, huh? Making a video. Yeah. So today is Alien Day. And I've mentioned several times, Alien, #1 favorite movie of all time. You see, I'm wearing my Vitruvian Alien shirt that I got from Forbidden Planet in New York City many years ago, when I would go there frequently. Good time, lots of good shirts, comics, just collectibles and stuff. Currently, I have the Marvel first edition Alien, all the variant cover comics, but it's packed away. I'm not pulling those out today. We're going to talk about Alien. Starting with the bottom here, Prometheus. This is the 6-movie Blu-ray steel box. In the back, it's got the iconic egg. Yeah, my favorite film, Alien. Starting with Prometheus. And how I rate movies, I don't do a star system. It's the top, love it. Second, like it. Third, it's okay. Or, I don't hate it. And 4 is hot garbage. So Prometheus, I didn't hate it. Of course, Ridley Scott got very defensive when the movie came out because there's lots of lore with the Alien franchise. Back in the 90s, Dark Horse came out with a lot of comics that expanded on the Aliens universe as it was portrayed in the movie Alien and Aliens. That's all they had to go with. And then Alien 3. And then Alien Resurrection. And none of them are hot garbage. There are good aspects to every one of the movies. There are bad aspects to most of the movies. Prometheus, and it can be broken down how you describe these movies, each one. Prometheus, explorers in space. They're explorers. They go out. They find the planet where the engineers come from. Well, the kicker is the Dark Horse comics and they based what they thought an engineer was like off of the original Alien film. Because when you see the engineer in his chair, the suit that they show in Prometheus, it doesn't connect the same way as the one in Alien. Meaning that's not the same. It doesn't even look the same. Because in Alien it was connected, it was like a trunk. Which is how in Dark Horse they showed the engineers. They were like an elephant-like race. And they were also a lot cooler in the comic, to be honest. I mean, sure, they kind of did the same thing as in Prometheus, where they went and terraformed worlds, seeded colonies, basically. But why they created the alien race was, in the Dark Horse comics, way more, because they were the ones that created. They just create the black goo. They created the aliens. They never explain how, but they do explain why. They basically would drop a bunch of alien eggs on a planet and let it wipe out the indigenous population of creatures, of all fauna, period. If there were sentient beings there, they died too. And they just waited. They just waited the aliens out until they had taken over completely. And then they had a very unique way of just going down and just wiping out the mature aliens and harvesting the eggs to take to the next planet. And then they would sell off the planet to another race. Presumably the Yautja, the Predator race, because they're in the same universe. This is the interesting thing too. Blade Runner. You know, they talk about mega corporations, which Weyland-Yutani is one of the mega corporations in the Alien universe. And they talk about the Hyperdyne systems, building the synthetics that Weyland-Yutani uses, because they are a synthetics corporation. Weyland-Yutani is a consumer-based corporation. They design, you know, the terraformers, ships. They don't design the weapons. It's a sub-company, Armat, that designs the weapons and aliens that the Colonial Marines use. And their ships are different looking than the Weyland-Yutani ships, because Weyland-Yutani is all about building better worlds. So that's what they focus on. So we're going to talk about the films, talk about Prometheus, Alien Covenant. Again, didn't hate it. There were aspects that I liked. I like when David showed up to the engineer world and just kind of exterminated them, which is what they do to worlds with populations. They just show up and wipe them out and then claim the world. Again, in the comics, then they would sell it off, or they would keep it for themselves, all depending. Not a horrible movie. Again, a way you could summarize it: colonials in space, colonists versus the alien. You know, and Prometheus, you didn't really have the alien. It was more the engineer that was the big villain. At the end, they showed the giant trilopod face hugger that got the engineer, and then at the end you see the neomorph, as they called it, and I was just like, ugh, he could have been designed so much better. The second one, you eventually did get a xenomorph. Where are you going? Alright, well, he's bored. Second one, you eventually did get a xenomorph. You had, what did they were similar to the neomorphs at first that you had. I forget what they were called. I don't really care, because the Alien franchise has always just tried to be about the xenomorphs and how humanity deals with them. Yeah, so Alien Covenant kind of just threw it up in the air that David created the xenomorphs through trial and error, and then you just had this. You didn't have a normal size egg with a normal size face hugger. You had a giant egg with a normal size face hugger, which never really made sense to me. I don't know why they did that. Because when it comes to Alien Day, the movie I'm always gonna go with. Like last night, I did do Alien, the director's cut. Now all these movies from the originals all have special editions and director's cuts, and they fundamentally change the movies. They're not big changes. There's just little scenes in there, and but they change certain things, that how characters are, and explain a little bit more. Like, okay, so we're going to go with my favorite one now. Oh wait, we got to talk about the series, because I'm pretty sure it takes place after Covenant, before Alien, which made no sense, because before Alien, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation didn't even know of the existence of xenomorphs. So Alien Earth is kind of a conundrum, because you could have left the xenomorph out. Could have, with that show. Just show all these other messed up aliens that these people found, not a xenomorph per se, but all these other ones that they gathered up and brought back and then got loose, and you know, it was not that good of a show. Not to mention, the ship though they used in that one was I liked the design. I thought it was pretty cool. But how it crashed into the planet, into that city, I was just like, the amount of damage that thing would have done with re-entry crashing into that city, that city wouldn't be standing. Imagine a giant fireball blasting into your living room. It's going to scorch everything when it pops. So yeah, that was an issue with that, because that ship, plus they all have nuclear reactors. How did the reactor not blow up? It didn't get shut off. And if you watch the show, spoilers, you don't have to. You really don't. It was hot garbage. It was a hot garbage. I watched it because I will watch anything with Alien. It's like I will watch anything with Ewan McGregor, because I love him as an actor. But let's move ahead, because Alien Earth isn't really worth talking about at all. We're talking Alien. Love it. Number one film. If someone said you have one movie you can watch the rest of your life, that's it. Alien. Great soundtrack to fall asleep to. Fun movie. Always puts me in the mood for Chinese food. I don't know. It's because they're eating Chinese food when the xenomorph pops, the chest burster pops out of Ash's chest. It really set it up like the captain, Tom Skerritt's character, Dallas, is going to be the protagonist. Like, he's going to be the one to live to the end. Boy, do they throw you for a loop, because he's the third one to die. The first one was Ash, getting the face hugger, having the chest burster incident on the dining room table, and then Brett, once the xenomorph is fully matured. And I have, you saw the Blu-ray. I have some other fun stuff to show you, because again, I love aliens, so I collect things. This is the Hallmark Alien 35th anniversary ornament. You get a good look there. Yeah, it's never taken out of the box and never put on my tree. I am tempted to, when I get the alien statue, to pop it open and see how it would sit on the shelf, if it would look cool or even sit upright. Some of these ornaments will sit upright. Others are good to just hang in the tree. So that's the alien one from Hallmark from 2014. 2014's keepsake ornament. And yeah, I'll never sell that. I have hundreds of ornaments from Hallmark and I'll never sell them. I also have here that I bought at a gaming store up in New York as well, because I just will pop into those places and be like, what do they got? What's cool to me? I've never played it. I've opened the box, took it out of the plastic, opened the box just to check out what all came with this. This is the Alien, the role-playing game starter set by Free League Publishing. Now, I have seen that they've come out with supplements for this game. I don't even know if it's still the same edition. This is the first edition they came out with of this game. I don't even know if it's the same edition. I've never played it because I don't have enough people to play this. So it's an RPG. You know, you got to get a group together like in D&D to play the game. I don't have that group anymore. A lot of those friends have moved on with their lives, and others, one just recently passed away. Kind of a bummer. But give me 1 second. I have a really, really cool thing of Alien that I'm going to show you here. Now, I always talk about the posters. Well, this one is this is the first I've taken out of the tube since it was given to me when the director's cut came out. And I finally took it out of the tube to look at it. So it is still rolled mint. It is the Alien. Yeah, it's hard to, like I said, it's been in there. Alien Director's Cut. Shiny metallic poster. back from when I worked at the movie theater, my boss knew that Alien was my favorite movie of all time. So she made sure, because we get 2 of these to put in our display cabinet at the movie theater. So she kept one for me. Mint in 2. We only used 1 for our poster case. Even says in space, no one can hear you scream. You know, the original tagline of Alien. I'm gonna get it small again, but I've kept it in the tube because, again, this is one I want to put in a poster case and hang on my wall. I need to order some poster cases. Found some on Amazon, put them on my wish list. And it was Halloween that year that came out. Alien Director's Cut. Even says 2 copies. 10/31 question mark Alien, because it was tentative when they were going to release it, but I think they did release it Halloween that year. So, but yeah, Alien, great movie, great cast, great dialogue, and the director's cut added things, little parts in it that just added to the film. Like so we're going to jump to the end of the movie when it's just Ripley left, and she is running from the alien on the ship after activating the self-destruct, and she's got the incinerator. They didn't call it a flamethrower, it was an incinerator unit. And she gets to this part of the ship. It's the original place where Brett had been killed and taken up. Well, as she gets, then no one went back there after that happened. No one walked through that area. That's where the xenomorph was nesting. And they show it. Because, again, in the Dark Horse comics, they explain how the xenomorphs make a nest. They can digest biological and inorganic materials. So that's 70 million tons of mineral ore. That thing was chomping down on something. That's why they have metallic looking teeth, so they can digest anything. And when they digest stuff, those tubulars on their back, you can vaguely see it here, that's where the secreted resin that they were talking about in Aliens that make the hive comes from, out of their backs. They extract it, excrete it, and then just smear it around. And they will even break themselves down. Like if there's multiple drones or warriors, they will eat and break down their own material to make the nest. And once a queen is hatched from a person, a queen chest burster, they'll build a nest around her as she grows. And the nest will just grow outward for her until eventually she's laying eggs, and then you're done. I mean, unless you nuke her. Unless you make sure, I mean, you have to nuke the site from orbit, like Ripley said in Aliens. But did you really get her? Did you get her all? All of them? You never know. They're wily things, plus they dig. They're burrowers. They like going underground. They like where it's warm too and moist. You saw that in Alien. So, Alien, great movie. Director's cut made it even better. Alien Romulus takes place, what did they say, 10 years after the original Alien. And I liked how it started with the probe going to the Nostromo, but I'm just like, did she burn that bitch up in the engine? That was my first little thing, because I rated this, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And there were things that I was like, this ain't going to make sense, and they were like, oh, you know, okay, they're trying to make it make sense. So, how they get the alien, yeah, they find a rock in space that I guess the alien wasn't dead after being burned up in a thruster engine. I don't know, that was a little unbelievable. When they could have just backtracked to where the Nostromo was, because Mother would have sent a response to network to let them know they were stopping at the Zeta 2 Reticuli at this moon where they received the signal. And you know, they could have had it that the probe or synthetics showed up there and snatched an egg. And that would have made a little bit more sense than finding, because I mean, the Nostromo was vaporized. How was there chunks of the hull? It went, no, it was a nuclear reactor that exploded. It would have vaporized everything, especially in space. There's enough sci-fi shows that show that, and movies. Now, when you drop a nuke in space, it's just going to vaporize stuff. Sorry for the flickering. It's my air conditioner kicking. Trying to keep my room cool. It's kind of humid outside and dreary and crappy. That's why I'm in pajamas today. So last night I watched Alien. This morning here when I got back from work, I was getting everything out for this video. I had on Alien Romulus because, like I said, I didn't hate it. It really borders hot garbage. Because, now, something I did like about it, the face huggers. You could tell they cloned all these things. I mean, we know how that went before with Alien Romulus. Kind of weird. But they made the face huggers way more menacing than this. And I appreciated that. Because it's like, yeah, every time we've normally seen them, they've been in the egg. And people are dumb enough to go and mess with the space. Never mess with the space egg. Stay away from the space eggs. You don't know what's in them. Probably a face hugger. It ain't good. Even Rick said, hey, if you give it a couple, find one of those eggs, give it a couple pokes, those little things are worth a lot. Yeah, exactly. Weyland-Yutani, they're worth a lot to them. But Alien Romulus, again, the graphics were not bad in that movie. Special effects were good. I like how they kept the aesthetic of the original Alien film. I like how they showed how the corporation sucks and has always sucked and still sucks. There's no changing how bad Weyland-Yutani and the Megacorps suck. And that's kind of an element in every one of them. In the first one, Kane even says, you know, the forfeiture of all shares if you don't go after this signal, and be like, wow, alright, corporate boy, you're not part of this crew. Which they even say later he was newly added to the crew before they left to go. Yeah, and the Alien. Space Truckers versus Alien. Alien Romulus. Dumb punk kids versus aliens. Always turns out bad for whoever is against the aliens, because the aliens, while they're not super intelligent, they're very instinctual, and they serve one purpose: serve the hive, serve the queen. Which in Romulus, towards the end of the movie, when they introduced the pulse rifles, I was like, that pulse rifle looks a little janky. I was like, not to mention, this girl's 90 pounds soaking wet. She goes to fire that thing, that recoil is going to bust her collarbone and pop her shoulder out of place. But if you remember from the Aliens movies, the butt plates, they compress. They like spring in and out when they shoot. They're also extendable. So the one she was using, I was like, yeah, but she has no skills, no training. How's she going to aim accurately and hit this thing without puncturing holes in the hull and causing a massive decompression that's going to kill all of them in 5 seconds? Aim assist! Yeah. So squeeze the trigger halfway and it snap locks on. It's like, yep, alright, gotta give her a workaround. Gotta do it. Because, otherwise, she's going to be just shooting the shit out of the hull. And they're all going to die, and the movie's going to be over. And the aliens lose, and the humans lose. Everyone loses. But someone has to win. Yeah, so Romulus, I'd watch it. I did. A few times. But I nitpick at little things. Like, towards the end, they use the black goo and make another mutant monster. Like in Alien Resurrection. Another hybridized type of monster that is just like ridiculously stupid looking. So now we're moving on to Aliens. And before I start with the movie Aliens, because I have a lot of materials here. I have a fun one that you're not going to be able to find pretty much anywhere. These are hard to find. These are the Dark Horse Comics graphic novels. Part 1 of 2 and Part 2 of 2, which when these came out, they were $5 a piece. I could probably sell them for at least 10 times that if I ever chose to sell them, which I never will. But before they came out with the director's cut for Alien, which showed Newt's family finding the ship and her dad being the first infected individual, before we even saw that, they came out with Aliens, Newt's Tale. And these graphic novels, those covers, are about the original infection of Hadley's Hope on LV-426. And they tell, basically, from Newt's perspective, how everything went to crap before the Colonial Marines showed up. And she wasn't alone for too long. It was less than like a week that she was alone scurrying through the docks. They even, they showed that in the second book here, towards the end, that the Colonial Marines are showing up, within a week of the last of the colonists being taken by the xenomorphs. Which is why, when they go into the hive, they find the woman cocooned with a chest burster just popping out, because she was one of the last ones caught. Otherwise, there would be no one to find there. Now, the PDTs, the personal data trackers, transmitters, they would still be active, because even if the people are dead, they were only used for tracking people. They weren't tracking vitals. It wasn't like what Colonial Marines had. It was for, because they tracked their vitals. This tracked just their locations. So they wouldn't know whether they were alive or dead. So yeah, with that, we're moving on to the Aliens now, and there's a lot of expanded lore after the Aliens film. But he's back. He's back. He wants some attention. That's why he sits right in front of me. But that's okay. I can rub his ear. Yeah, he likes those ears rubbed. He's a good boy. Why? Shake your head. Why don't you come up here so everyone can see you? Come on. You just want to sit there? Alright. So Aliens, Hallmark, of course, in 2017 and 2016 is first. 2016, they came out with the Alien Queen ornament. Again, I've never taken it out of the box, never put it on a tree or anything, because I haven't had a tree since I was a kid. I had a small tree, but it had a bunch of Star Trek and Star Wars ships all over it. But yeah, the Alien Queen, Aliens Hallmark ornament from 2016. Yeah, 2016. Putting things back there as I go through. And then in 2017, they did the P5000 powered work loader from Aliens with Ripley in it. She used it twice in that film, once to help load up ammunition and rockets and move crates from the loading areas, and then again to fight the Alien Queen at the end, at the climax of the film. You coming up? He's getting there. Yeah. So the funny thing is, they talk about the company that made these, Caterpillar, who make, heavy machinery now. They're a real company. They just kept the company name the same for that device, that machine, because why not? They would evolve too as a company. They would make something that would be useful to the corporations. Let's see, I've got other graphic novels here. Now, we're not going to talk about the Predator or Alien versus Predator, but this ties back into Prometheus because this was a graphic novel series that came out after Prometheus. So they came out with 4 of these. They're called the Fire and Stone series. And they, forget the order here. They don't really say on the outside. It says on the inside. But it was Prometheus, Aliens, Predator, and then Alien versus Predator. 4 books that tied in the new movie and previous lore from, you know, the expanded universe that Dark Horse created. Because another graphic novel that I have is Alien Bloodlines. That's a newer one, as well as Aliens Fast Track to Heaven, another newer one that came out after the Fire and Stone series. Oh wait, this was a Dark Horse as well. This was a Dark Horse novella. When did this one come out? I don't remember, but it's hard copy. Now, to try and find the Dark Horse graphic novels is really hard. But something that they did that was really cool, and they've done it with other Dark Horse series that they've done, is the Alien Omnibuy. And this covers a bunch of their graphic novels. Like this one had Outbreak, Nightmare Asylum, Female War, Theory of Alien Propagation, and The Alien. So the Theory of Alien Propagation explains how the hives are created, you know, how they become, how many there are. And then I don't have the second one. I thought I had it, but it may have gotten lost in a move, or I loaned it to someone and they never gave it back, because that's happened with books. But I have the third one here. There were 6 total, just the Aliens ones. And this one had about 7 graphic novels in it. The first one being Rogue, which showed a Xenomorph King. That was the first showing, I think, of the Xenomorph King. They were all really good. They all had different artists, art styles, stories. There's the 4th one. Here's the 5th one. And the 6th one. Like I said, I need to go and look for the 2nd one so I can complete the collection and have all 6 Alien Omnibuy. I have the Predator ones. I do not have any of the Alien versus Predator ones. I was never really impressed when they did the crossovers with them. No, the Aliens movie, again, the director's cut, added small little scenes. One very important scene that they added that wasn't in the original was dealing with the sentry guns and how they set them up, where they set them up, and you know, they said they showed scenes where the ammo counters going down. Yeah, there were all the director's cuts. Now, Alien 3, we're going to get in that one in a second. That had a director's cut as well, which fundamentally changed the movie. Because it changed, everyone thought it was a dog alien. It's not a dog alien. Now, the theatrical cut, it was a dog alien. No. So, yeah, the Aliens movies, Aliens was really good. I'll be watching that after I'm done with this video. Now, Alien 3. The theatrical cut and the director's cut are fundamentally different. One of the main reasons is the alien propagation and how it came to be. In the theatrical cut, it's a dog alien. It comes from that Rottweiler. The only damn dog on the planet, and he has to die by an alien. I love dogs. I hated to see that happen. But you watch the director's cut, it wasn't the dog that got infected. It was that cow that they brought in, the ox or whatever. That was what killed that thing, because they were like, what killed this? Oh, no. They hung it up to butcher it. And the scene where they are cremating Hicks, we'll get into that in a second. And Newt, that's when the birthing scene happens. And in the director's cut, they show the cow hanging, and the xenomorph pop out of it, flop on the ground, and then skin, pull the skin off. And it doesn't come out like a chest burster. It grew inside the cow more, because cow was dead, so it probably had already been born inside the cow, presumably, and feeding on the inside, and then burst its way out when it was getting cramped. That's why it matured so quickly. And then later we see it still maturing in the air ducts, where the guy got knocked into the 50-foot fan. I think that's what it was, 50-foot fan, whatever. And they just were like, oh, he's just an idiot. That's why he fell into the fan. Never turn your back on the fan. Why not turn it off? You got a guy going in there to work, shut the fan off. The music sequences were different. I don't know why. I never looked into it. Maybe it was a different composer. Maybe because the scenes were longer where the music was different. Like when they're trying to burn the alien out, they put that nasty sludge stuff that will, like, literally, like, rolling liquid fire everywhere. Because the xenomorph grabs someone and he drops his flare by accident. It falls out of his pocket by accident and activates the igniter. And it just all goes bad, and they lose, like, most of the inmates in that thing, in that inferno. That whole scene is extended and changed from the theatrical version to the director's cut. It changed the movie and changed how you saw certain characters after that shock and awe of the fire torching their buddies and their longtime comrades in the prison. And again, aliens, Marines versus aliens. Alien 3, inmates versus aliens. You can always say, it's this versus the aliens in every one of these movies, which is always fun. Yeah, Alien 3, not a horrible film. Good soundtrack. I fall asleep to it. I mean, not because it's boring, because by the time I get to Alien 3, I'm usually ready for bed anyway. And it's one I can fall asleep to because the soundtrack is pretty good. And then that brings us to our last one. Our last one? Yeah, we talked Alien Earth, we talked Romulus, we talked Prometheus and Covenant. Oh, sorry. I'm going to be turning on Aliens after this and taking a nap. I'll probably wake up when they drop shit down because it's loud. Alien Resurrection, again, has a special edition. I don't even rightly know what the difference between the special edition and the theatrical cut were when I watch them. It's not one that I go to. Again, it's not hot garbage. It's I don't hate it. There are actors in it that I like. But it is space pirates versus aliens. I mean, I guess you could say it's military and space pirates versus aliens, but the military kind of died really easily and quick on a ship as big as it is. Because one thing that they did with the Alien and Aliens, not with Alien 3, oh no, they did do it with Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, they tell you how many people, where they are, what the setting is, and how many people there are. In Alien, it was 7, crew of 7. Aliens, you had so many Marines, a platoon of Marines. Colonists, you know how many colonists there were from the population sign on Hadley's Hope. So you're like, okay, 1 alien per colonist, that's a lot of damn aliens. They should have listened to Ripley. And that was the other thing. People always say, we need more female protagonists, strong female protagonists. You had Ripley. back in the 70s, she was an early female protagonist because, like I said, you would thought it was going to be Dallas, Tom Skerritt. No, he got ganked third. Ripley was a survivor. This was Ripley's story. And Aliens is the same way. This is still Ripley's story. But this is Ripley's story because now we know she's a mother, or was a mother. That's something that was added in the director's cut. You get to see her daughter's picture being an old woman. Because Ripley was gone for so long, 6 decades. What was it, 57 years? So almost 6 decades since she had left her daughter. And she was supposed to be home for her 11th, 12th birthday. You know, that's when she left the Nostromo. She was supposed to be back in time for her birthday, and never made it back for another birthday. But we got the video game Alien Isolation that deals with Amanda Ripley, her daughter, working on a space station, dealing with aliens. I've never finished that game. I've started it. Once I get to the medical section, the game is hard. It's not easy to hide from that big monster. And then I hear later on there's more of them, and I'm like, you can't hide. I can barely hide from one of them. How am I going to hide from half a dozen of them? But that's the thing that I like. You know, you never just get one alien usually. Like with Alien, you did because you left. They left the planet with all the other raids. They were like, bounce. We got Ash. We're out. In Alien Isolation and Alien Romulus, they later show multiple aliens, which is like, yeah, because once they start, if there's more than one egg on board, more than one facehugger, you're going to have more than one alien eventually. And in Romulus, there was a hive in the lower levels, the lab levels of that thing, so which makes sense down near the reactor core. And aliens, of course, you know, like I said, the Hadley's Hope, hundreds of aliens, hundreds of colonists. Now they didn't, presumably they wouldn't necessarily be able to get everyone, because some would be fighting and they would just have to kill those people because they had weapons. They did have weapons in the comic, the graphic novels. They had shotguns and pistols. Alien 3, they didn't have any weapons until that collection team arrived. Which they never really explained that ship that came for Ripley. Now, interestingly enough, the video game Alien Colonial Marines, which a lot of people hate on that game, it wasn't as bad as people say. I've played it several times. Yeah, could have been improved? Of course. No one back then, when that game came out, no one wanted to dump a lot of money into an Alien game. And there have been a few Aliens games that have come out since then. One of my favorite, and I would love to see a sequel or some downloadable content and additional content for it, would be Alien Dark Descent. Told a great story. It was an isometric, over-the-top, squad-based, turn-based game. A lot of fun with that one because you could customize how your people looked, their names. I tend to change the names of people I know, and even change the names to Colonial Marines from the Aliens movie, because we're going to get into the hypotheticals of where Aliens should have gone instead of with Alien 3, or even, you know, changing, not doing Alien Resurrection, or just discounting those final 2 movies. Because Neil Blomkamp, who did District 9, Elysium, and I hate myself for forgetting. No, not Elysium. I hate myself. Elysium and District 9 are the ones I know him best for. Because Elysium was awesome. He wanted to make an Aliens film, bringing back Michael Biehn and Sigourney Weaver, and they would basically lead a new group of Marines hunting aliens, like the Kenner mini comics. Very similar to what I think the Kenner mini comics would have been, which, if you don't remember, Kenner Toys came out with an Aliens versus Predator and an Aliens line of toys back in the 90s. And with every one of them came a little comic book. And it involved the character that you were buying. If it was an alien, it involved the alien that you were buying. And, you know, different planets, different creatures had different aliens. They had mantis aliens from a world that had predominantly the alpha predator was an insect, like a mantis, praying mantis. They had gorilla alien that sprayed acid, made no sense for a gorilla, but had big huggy arms. That was funny. They had the bull alien, which video games have turned into the crusher alien. Large headpiece, kind of similar to a queen, thicker, so they could just crush into things, break through large metal walls, stone walls. Spitters were another thing that was introduced. There was a snake alien, Kenner toy, the flying queen alien, and then they, for the Marines, it was basically the aliens, Marines. They didn't die. Like Drake was there, Vasquez, Hicks, Hudson, Apone. Bishop was made into a combat synthetic, and Ripley had a giant flamethrower. It was their toys were great. I'm sorry, they were. But yeah, they were. The little comics, I believe, were even Dark Horse originated for those toys, and it was cool because it expanded on the universe. But those were less canon than you could do with the other comics, because the other comics kind of didn't have any of the main characters from anything. Didn't have Ripley, didn't have any of that. And some of them took place on different planets where aliens were put and forgotten, found, or Weyland Yutani brought them and dropped them there to see what kind of hijinks they could get into. But Alien Resurrection, the final film, again, didn't hate it. Didn't hate any of these movies. There are bad parts of the movies. The casting was great for that movie. There were a lot of good actors playing very different kind of roles. I mean, Ron Perlman was still a caveman. He's still Ron Perlman in that movie. That's just the way the man acts. I mean, it just comes off. I mean, even Hellboy, I loved Hellboy, but I wouldn't say his acting was what made Hellboy a great movie. It was the writing and the story they were telling, which is always Hellboy is the key to the apocalypse, you know. Sigourney Weaver, you know, still looking pretty decent. Winona Ryder, back in her perch snatching days, from you know, and she got in trouble for perch snatching. We won't even get into the issues with a couple of the actors from Alien Covenant. One that happened right before Alien Covenant, which when they were filming, they had to change out his character was going to die instead of having him live past the opening scene, and a character that they let live all the way to the end because what he did hadn't happened yet. He did it later, and which he should be in jail for, personally, if you ask me, but we'll not get into that mess. Yeah, Resurrection, just the weapons were weird. Like, why not stick with pulse rifles? Even though this is a lot further in the future than Alien 3. What was it? I forget, even like 100 years or some shit. Which, when they get to Earth at the end of the movie, and you see Earth looks like a dump, all it made me think was, wouldn't it be great if you just saw Ash from Evil Dead, just Army of Darkness? If you watch a director's cut, he takes too many of the drops to sleep through time, like Rip Van Winkle himself, and he wakes up in a world where Earth looks like a garbage heap. I was just like, watching that movie, I was just thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great if when they were flying over, you just see Ash there, waving his arm with a shotgun, like, hey, you know, I'm here. I slept too long. Yeah, the director's cut of that movie was not as good as the original either. We'll talk Evil Dead when Evil Dead Burn comes out. Do a review on Evil Dead Burn. So that's another franchise I like, Evil Dead. It's a good franchise. The original was very much an indie project, but it was such a good indie project. It gave us Sam Raimi, and it gave. I mean, I think Ted was attached to the film in some aspect, but not to like what his brother helped him get to before, or like later, when he was co-starring on movies and TV shows. But I digress. Alien Day. On this day, I always watch at least one Alien movie. I'm probably gonna watch. I haven't watched Alien Resurrection in a long time, so. And I've got some leftover pizza from Friday night when I watched The Last Drive-In, which was Valparkisnacht. It's a German word, and I'm mostly German, so I should be able to pronounce it. Valparkisnacht. It's the Witch's Sabbath. It's halfway to Halloween, which is technically April 30th, but because they do their show on Fridays, they have to do it before that. And I had a few glasses of mead that night. It was fun because the first movie was Clive Barker's Rawhead Rex. Both movies were set in Ireland. They were, Europe, where the Witch's Sabbath is actually a holiday over there in a few places. Norway, Sweden, Finland, I don't know, Ireland, maybe. It would make sense. Germany for sure, especially the Black Forest region. That's where a lot of witch tales originate, Eastern Europe, probably, some countries. It was kind of killed out by Catholicism and Christianity after the Dark Ages. But it's still celebrated. Anyone will make a holiday if you can drink for it. And Valparkisnacht, I think that's how I pronounce it, I might have just did it right, is a drinking holiday. You drink, you dance under the moonlight, and you go frolic in the woods naked, and the witches try to hook up with the big D word, devil. Not a believer in that, but it's a fun. I'm not a worshiper of the devil, again, not getting religious, but it's a fun little holiday because one of the things you drink is mead, and I love mead. So that night I busted out a bottle of Viking Blood mead. I love it. 3 glasses, 3 fingers each. Drinking it while watching at about midnight. And I don't drink very often, so last year at Christmas time is when I bought it was Christmas. No, I think it was closer to Thanksgiving. Again, don't drink very much. I think I bought like 4 bottles, maybe 5. I have one in my display cabinet with my favorite liquors and like different glasses and a mead horn, which when I do the showcase on that, I'll show that stuff off. Holidays really is all I drink. I don't drink that often. So Friday, The Last Drive-In, which they only have 3 specials left for Joe, Bob, and Darcy on Shudder, which after that I think I'll cancel my Shudder subscription because it was the only reason I got Shudder, is to watch those live streams with Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy the Mail Girl, aka Diana Prince, which I was kind of having fun that night and tweeting a lot because we do a tweet during the stream, and I got a bunch of shares and likes, and some of those quotes and retweets came from the co-host, Darcy the Mail Girl, which I was like, that's pretty cool. She noticed stuff I said or stuff I posted. So Alien Day, gonna be watching, gonna probably take a little nap with Lincoln because I did most of my laundry yesterday. That's what I do on the weekends, laundry cleaning, and now making some content. I know I'm getting a little longer talking. I'm working on that, talking about things. Today was obviously a good one to talk about because I love Alien. I love sharing about Alien. I have a bunch of stuff to show off for Alien. So watch yourself an Alien movie today. On HBO Max, they have all of the movies, and the ones that have director's cuts are on there as well. So if you haven't seen Alien, the director's cut, HBO Max in the US has it. Hulu has Alien Earth, but again, unless you want to take a nap, thinking about Peter Pan and the kids of Neverland, the Lost Boys. That's what that show is. I swear to God. The guy takes these kids, puts them in synth bodies, their brains inside of synthetic bodies, and the first girl's named Wendy, and I'm just like, Peter Pan was the villain in that story, not the good guy. Yes, Captain Hook was the hero. He was trying to save the kids from Pan, because Pan was kidnapping kids. Look it up. Disney lies to you about fairy tales. All fairy tales are bad. They were to teach kids a lesson. Why do you think a lot of them, and especially ones that involve witches, originated in Germany, in the Black Forest region? It was to terrify the kids, to keep them in line, to make them respect their elders, or, not take candy from strangers, or don't go with someone because they say they have free puppies in their car. But yeah, so enjoy your Alien Day. Remember 4/26, always Alien. I mean, you can watch it during Halloween too. You can watch it anytime. It's just a day that I like to make it a little unofficial movie holiday where I watch certain movies. Like, I'll be doing one of these videos for 4th of July and talking about some different 4th of July films that I like to watch on 4th of July specifically, that I will be like, that movie is for that day. I don't watch it any other time, because any other time I don't have any interest, and usually holidays are spent alone anyway. I do a 31 days of Halloween, so I will have a different movie each night that I talk about, that I watch. I was posting up just the movie posters on my Instagram and Facebook, but I think I'll do, maybe I'll do like a week recap of what I've watched that week and talk about each of the movies. Maybe give you some recommendations. Maybe even start out being like, oh, this is what I'm going to watch this week. Check them out, and I'll find out, where they're streaming for everyone to watch them. But yeah, so happy 4/26, everyone. Don't poke the alien eggs. Stay away from them. Have yourself a delightful week. And like, share, subscribe. Comment on how you think I did. If I'm a little long-winded, or if you thought it was good. Oh, the shirt, again, got that. I don't know if they'll still have it, but it was Forbidden Planet in New York City. You can look it up if you're there. I am one of those few lucky people to say that I was at the original Forbidden Planet several years ago in London, because the one in New York is not the original. The original is in London. There are only 2 locations for Forbidden Planet now. That's London, and there's New York. There used to be 3. I think the 3rd one was LA, but that one shut down a long time ago. So yeah, you know me. I like to push stuff. I wish I had the alien big chap statue to put together today, but maybe we'll do another little talk about Predator movies when I get the Predator statue and I do the Alien statue at the same time. And we'll talk about the Predator franchise and get into Alien versus Predator, which we didn't get into in this video because I didn't want to delve into the Predator series or the Alien series, because there's a lot I can say about the Predator movies now that there's more of them, and not all of them are good. Again, I still will watch them because I love the Predator, I love the Alien, I love the backstories that have been created in an expanded universe that isn't tied to just the movies. So, have fun. Yeah, don't poke the alien egg. Don't go in that strange spaceship. And for Pete's sake, always nuke them from orbit. Don't go looking for survivors. There aren't any. Just nuke them from orbit. That's it. You get there and you find half-eaten donuts, they're gone. Don't finish that donut. Anyone who's eating a donut is going to finish that donut. No fat person leaves a donut behind. You guys have a good one. Lincoln is snoring and farting, so he needs lunch. Bye.